Game of Life. All right. This is actually one of my favorite workshops. This is one that I think is worth definitely, going through and redoing. It's kind of a fun one to do, and I think it's brings home a lot of the different things that we've done up to this point. Sort of combining some logic or our own type of algorithms with working with the DOM. So, what is Game of Life? So the way that Game of Life works is that you start off with your board in a certain position, and at some point you'll reach some stability with your game board based upon what the rules are. You might not. You might actually reach a state where you're just toggling in and out of certain states, but you eventually will end up getting some pattern. And it's based upon these rules. So here's some sort of history of it, of the game. You could read up about it if you want to, but it's a very, very simple structure. So you've got this 2D grid, and I think in the workshop we start off by drawing you the grid, but after that you're going to do most of the interactions. So we've got this 2D grid, and each cell in the grid is either dead or alive. So the live ones are the ones that are dark, and the dead ones are the ones that are white. Or in our case, I think they're either blue or blue and white, I think. So what ends up happening here is that based upon, so you could start out the game with a certain number of, you could click and mark your grid as to what's going to be alive or what's going to be dead. Or you can randomize it and go through the board and say, hey, I'm going to loop over all the cells in my grid, and randomly I'm going to say which one is dead and which one is alive, okay? But the rule is that what you really want to do here is this involves stepping through the Game of Life. And the way that it works is a fairly simple rule. So if you're alive, okay, and it turns out that you are you have fewer than 2 live neighbors around you, in the next phase, in the next step, you're gonna die. Okay. If you have too many people around you, so if you have greater than 3 people, right? So if you have, another way to say this, so if you have right. Well, I guess it says it correctly, right? So if you have greater than 3 live neighbors, you also die. Otherwise, you end up staying the same, right? On the same token, if you're dead, you'll come to life if you have an optimal number of neighbors, which is exactly 3. So this is what you're going to be implementing as you end up stepping through by clicking and saying, you're basically saying next, what the next state is. And eventually what you'll end up doing is that one of the things that you'll end up doing is that you could actually put this on a timer to go through, and every second or whatever iteration you want to have happen, you basically have it step through the game, which is kind of what that animation ended up doing. Now, so this is also what your neighbors are. So your neighbors are going to be the 8 elements that are surrounding you. So I don't know if this is, this is going to depend. I mean, if this guy was alive, right, and he's got, maybe it's got to go back to the rules, right? So if you're alive and you have, fewer than 2 live neighbors, right? So if he's just got, 1 live neighbor, the next tick he's going to end up being dead, right? As opposed to, right, if you have, what's the optimal number, right? If you have greater than 3, you'll end up, staying alive. So, that's basically what the structure is. You could think about all the all the permutations. But in essence, what you're really doing is you're looping around this board. You're seeing what the state of your neighbors are, and that's going to determine what your next state is. And it's kind of an interesting workshop. It's nice because you get kind of a nice visual result as you do it. So you can sort of think about what's going to happen here. Right, so overcrowding, greater than 3, less than 2. Right, and if you have exactly 2, you're going to live. So, right, is that what it was, or exactly 3? Exactly 3.
Rebirth.
Right, so
Middle guy's gonna come alive.
the middle guy, I don't think so, right? Because he's got 4. He's too crowded. Right, but who's going to come alive? This guy's going to come alive. Right, exactly 3. This guy's not going to come alive. The one above the bottom left, this guy? Yeah. Yep, he's going to come alive. Who's going to die? Top guy from starvation, right? The bottom left is going to die. This guy's going to live on, right? And so it's sort of interesting how this ends up playing out. And there's all kinds of, there's all kinds of permutations that you could end up putting on the game. Let me go and, so this is sort of, I guess, giving you an example to show you what the nearest neighbors are and gives you an animation of what happens. Looks to be a little bit more complicated than it is. It's kind of a fun workshop to do. So, so with this workshop, you're going to start with some HTML, and a big part of this is actually, doing event handling on the DOM. So, this is something that I think it sort of explains it in the workshop. I was actually doing some very basic event handling with JSBin, and the reason why it wasn't working is that before, when I was doing my on-click, it's got to be on-click all lowercase. I was doing on-click with the C that was uppercase. So you won't necessarily get an error from that, but nothing will really end up happening. So this is I think it'll be a fun workshop. Let me open it up. Pair you guys up. Now, the pairing, by the way, is supposed to be random. But let's actually make sure that it is. Hold on.